turn on the microphone so people can hear me. And then we go to the lesson plan. And if I can move this around a bit so it's easier to see. And here, click here, and then we go to our class. We should have a debate today on whether or not South Korean social science makes politics better. And very general, very provocative statement. And let's go back then to look at the notes that we have and things that we want to talk about here in class today. And let's talk about the chapter 3, Cresswell book, and make sure we finish up on that. And before we go on to some in-class exercises. And so we covered this introduction to qualitative research, and we covered last class some of the political about what qualitative research involves, and that it has become even more complex and controversial because of politics, particularly in places like the United States, but also elsewhere. Yes, share screen. Yes, thank you for reminding me to share screen. So we're going to share screen, and then we go here. So, all right. So the, all right. So the, yeah. So again, the 4 elements. I mean, I'm going to ask you to write up your research project, right? So you're going to state what the problem is. All researchers, qualitative or quantitative, start with a problem or issue, and you examine the published literature on the problem. That's the scholarly literature, right? The peer-reviewed scholarly literature. So, you're doing a small little project, 5 pages I asked it to be. And so you're going to review maybe some scholarly literature. If you go to Google Scholar and you type in international student and pandemic response and cultural problems and challenges, you can find some literature to cite and use in cite to show where your research fits in terms of the qualitative research, qualitative findings and research that you're doing. What contribution does it make to the field of scholarship that's already been published, right? And getting published is a critical issue. I mean, it's hard to overestimate the importance of that you need to get published in some scholarly peer-reviewed journal if you want to have some kind of stable academic life as a professor. And or not just a stable academic life, a stable life in general, because otherwise you could pay very little and you have to move around. You don't have job security. So, so you examine the published literature on the problem. You come up with hypotheses or questions. They pose the questions, like, for example, it's up to you how you want to do it. Like the pandemic has a general research topic. The pandemic has intensified the challenges of international students here at Catholic University or South Korea studying at Korean universities. Then you engage in the data collection, you gather the data and analyze it, and that's involving your interviews. You present the results of your work and you write up the reports, your data findings, and then you discuss it and write up the reports. And this is where, all of this involves theory. You have to have a theoretical framework that you love, that you're committed to, that you find so interesting and provocative, you decided to devote your life to becoming a qualitative academic scholarly researcher. So, and I'm only slightly exaggerating. And so these parts of the research project are not isolated from each other. You don't do one step and you do another step. You find that you end up going back and forth, modifying your understanding of your problem, your research questions. You gather data. The data you gather indicates that your research question or hypotheses, that's an old Greek word, an ancient Greek word, right? The research question that you're developing needs to be modified or changed. So, it's not just step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You're engaging, starting off with the problem, but then you will find as you go through this process that each of the stages affects the other stages as they grow and develop in your own mind. And so So these parts of the scientific process are not isolated from each other, but rather they are interconnected and interrelated to make the study appear as a cohesive whole. The study thereby demonstrates methodological congruence. So you want to make sure that the whole project seems to be a cohesive whole. That's why it's good to be an effective communicator. It's good if you're an effective writer. If you're a good writer, you're going to be more persuasive. Everybody wants to enjoy being persuaded. So if you write in an engaging, effective style, people are going to pay more attention to your work. So let me see, what else do I want to cover here in the brief time remaining? The above parts are general principles, but in actual qualitative research, when they're employed, they can vary. So for example, in reviewing the literature, you might start by trying to review all the literature at the start. I never review all the literature. There's just too much published out there. I mean, can you imagine, I study nationalism. Can you imagine how much research is published every year on nationalism? So I don't read everything that's published on nationalism every year, but I do try to look at nationalism and political psychology. And when I do keyword searches, because that's the key, when you do keyword searches in Google Scholar or ProQuest Central or Academic Search Complete, those keywords that you use, those are critical. And in some studies, now that we have computer databases for journal articles for the last 20 years, you're expected, when you write your dissertation, to tell the reader what keywords you used in searching for published scholarly literature in doing your research. And of course, you put them in quotation marks if you want to keep them together. So if you look at political psychology and nationalism and Russia and Ukraine, and you put that you're searching through the text of the entire article. So full text, FT. I mean, I showed you this before and I can show you again, but I don't want to open up the file here on this computer because it takes too long. But the keywords that you're using to search these databases indicates the body of literature or the subset of the literature that you're interested in reviewing. So in other studies, the literature might be reviewed later in the process after you start your research to get a better idea or understanding what you're trying to do. In others, the literature might be used only to justify or document their importance of the research problem that we have selected. Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of this kind of work, that I know that nationalism and liberalism can associate together with each other. But that's a controversial statement, but I know it's true. So in the name of liberal nationalism, some bad things have been done, like create the British Empire and claim we are expanding the British Empire or the French Empire to bring enlightenment and progress to these backward parts of Asia and Africa. Liberal imperialism was the framework or justification used by French and British imperialists in the late 19th century. But again, that reflects my theoretical framework, So I know that happened. So that's going to shape how I look for literature that pretty much justifies my argument. I said, the purpose of all communication is to persuade. That's why I keep saying, when you write your paragraphs every week, you have to use and cite specific information to support, refine, and develop your own points so that you persuade me. Otherwise, it's just your opinion, and I don't care about your opinion in science. So, for example, the use of theory also varies. So, for example, in a good qualitative ethnography, cultural theories are important, like in anthropology, right? Or so, for example, in grounded theory, during the actual process of research, the researcher and the participants develop and generate the theories. So grounded theory means trying to understand the implicit theory that the interviewees that you're interviewing, or the people you were studying, they use in their own heads to explain and motivate and drive their own behavior in their, for example, as I told you, like, what is the grounded theory that African-American women use who are struggling to work and make enough money to take care of their children, and maybe as single mothers? How do they understand or create a worldview in the form of an implicit theory of their identity and role in the world to motivate themselves to devote time to go to a gym and do regular exercise and workout in that, and exercise in that gym every day, given their life conditions and life demands that are already upon them? And why is that important? Because, as I said, right, that African-American people, because of the legacy, and you know this, because of the legacy of slavery and marginalization and segregation, they have higher incidences of health deficiencies, higher incidences of obesity and diabetes. And all of this, of course, was in one of these rounded theory studies that an earlier edition of the Cresswell and Poth book covered. Again, it just hits me in the face that these all were illustrated for the whole world with the COVID-19 pandemic, again, illustrating these stark inequalities between certain groups of people that are legacies of slavery and settler colonialism, manifesting themselves in so-called people of color, Blacks and Hispanic people and Indian people, having twice the casualty rate in the United States from COVID-19 as white people, because they have more health problems, including obesity and diabetes. If you're obese, you're more likely to get severely ill from COVID-19 than if you're not obese. And so, for example, in health sciences, you have a priori use of theories. There's an already established theory that guides your framework. So it's again a yin-yang process involved in social science. You have a theoretical framework that you use to guide your thinking, but then your actual findings of data can then shape your theoretical framework. So it's called a simultaneously inductive and deductive process. Deductive means you use your theories to guide your thinking and your research and the interpretation of data, and then that same process then inductively causes you to elaborate and refine your own theoretical framework. Okay, so it's a creative process. Science is like art. There are similarities between science and art. And you can also see how it's really important for you to love this kind of work, and you have to believe in yourself in doing it, because it's a process that is heavily oriented towards subjective preferences and in terms of your theoretical framework that you're adopting. So the point is, you have to be bold, and you have to be willing to defend your work and defend it from people that will not take it seriously. So our own background and interests are also important in our qualitative research. We each have a personal history, which helps us give us a perspective as a researcher. We also have our own orientations towards research. I already covered this more than once here in these discussions. And our own sense of personal ethics, like what is the right and wrong way to do research, and what do we expect to see that in the world in which, for example, a country like America declares that all men are created equal, but of course, people are not created and treated equally in the United States. So a researcher is a multicultural subject, and each researcher has a personal view of history and traditions, as well as his or her own conceptions of self, ethics, politics, as a starting point for inquiry. So keep that in mind, right? If you're going to say you're going to continue with that discussion we had last class, if you're going to do research about the growing tendency towards getting tattoos in Japan, right? In terms of what this is highlighting here, the fact that you, as a researcher, going to Tokyo or Kobe or wherever you go to do this research, you are Korean. You know you're Korean. Your interviewees know you're Korean. That is important information given the history of relations between Koreans and Japanese. So you'd have to include that in your research write-up and your research study. You have to position yourself, explaining why this topic is interesting to you, how you think it's significant, and what could be its implications for making the world a better place, however you understand that very general, vague statement to mean. Maybe you understand it to mean in terms of Japanese and Korean relations, in terms of integration and communication, in terms of, it's somehow tied up with K-pop, for example. I mean, that K-pop is so popular everywhere, and tattoos, body tattoos, are somehow associated with marginal social deviant behavior, including Yakuza gangster behavior, and that Koreans, because of their marginalization and segregation in Japanese society, they're disproportionately represented in these Yakuza. This is all somewhat significant, and it's going to be important when you do those interviews with those Japanese young people you're interviewing, because they know you're Korean. You're going to tell them you're Korean if they don't understand that. So let's go back to that Korean case. Let me call up that exercise we did here, and if I can find it here in my voluminous notes that what did I do with that? Just a second. I'm looking for the or did I change it? Let me just a second. Okay, yeah, here. So we did this. I asked you to come up with 4 questions that you would begin to do your interview with. Typically, it's 6 to 12. In a phenomenological study, you interview 6 to 12 individual interviewees intensively in this phenomenological study. So let's imagine that let's role play. I am a young Japanese professional, and Deok is going to interview me. He's come to Japan, and he's going to, he wants to do a research study on phenomenological study on this phenomenon of tattooing and growing use of tattoos in Japan, despite the stigma with it, despite the consequences of it, despite the difficulty it can have for these people who get the tattoos if their family and friends and employers know they have a tattoo. So I suggested we start with these 4 questions. Okay, so I want Deok to come up here, and he's going to interview me. He's going to interview me, and I'm going to role play. I'm one of these Japanese young people. Let's say I'm this person. Who am I? Who am I going to role play? I am. No, I'm going to look for a man, not a girl. Why not? I have to share screen again. Okay. Can you see it now? Okay. Thank you. So it doesn't matter. Let's say I'm just a young person, a young male professional who works in McDonald's in Japan. I work in McDonald's. So Deok, why don't you come up? And we called this a semi-structured interview, right? So there's a certain set of questions you start off with, and then based upon my responses, you have to formulate your subsequent questions based upon my responses. Now, and you already have a theoretical framework in your mind about social identity, about gender, about the relationship of young people to older people, generational differences. And so that will shape how you respond to my answers to these questions. Okay. And like we covered at a previous class, right, that you have to make sure that you don't guide or direct the interviewee to think in a certain way or respond in a certain way, depending upon what you know. You want to allow the person to express themselves fully and freely without appearing that they are confronting being judged or being evaluated as good or bad as implied by your question. So that's why I asked these. Can you see those questions? You can't see them, can you? Okay, so what about maybe we should move down here so that we can see the questions. And so, okay, so just so we're supposed to be relaxed here, Hey, so he's interviewing me at maybe it's my lunch break at McDonald's, or maybe I've just gotten done working at McDonald's. So we're relaxing at a cafe, at a Japanese version of Starbucks. And so, I'm sitting here and he's sitting there. And so, he knows me.
Konnichiwa.
Okay, so why don't you start asking me, what's your first question to me?
So why did you decide to get it?
First thing you're going to ask me my background. I didn't put that up here, but you should ask me my background. Who am I? How old am I? And my job. And any other type of biographical information you think is important. Okay,
so before they asking the questions, I want to know the personal background. So what is your name and what is your age and what is your nationality, please?
Okay, well, I'm Japanese.
Yeah,
my name is Ben Kurosawa, and I'm 29 years old, and I am so if there's other information you want, like for example, how do you ask me questions to get information about my family background? Like, do I come from a working class family? Is my father college educated? Is my mother college educated? Is this important information for you to know? Now you could say, according to your theoretical perspective that you bring, you might say, yeah, because we know from from empirical research that the sons and daughters of college educated white collar people are going to typically, they're not going to work at McDonald's. So you want to make sure what my socioeconomic status, SES, is socioeconomic status. So how are you going to ask me questions to find out about my socioeconomic status?
So is your family from a rural place or countryside place?
No.
Or did you graduate university?
Now you might got to be careful about it when I ask me about it, because I might feel ashamed. Like, no, I didn't go to university. I'm too dumb, or there's a problem with me. So, how you ask these questions is really important, because you need this information, but you have to get me to answer them in a way that I don't feel embarrassed. I don't feel judged. I don't become defensive. I mean, I don't know if I would ask if I went to, I would say, how would I ask? I would say something like, so tell me about your family background. Are your parents still working? And then you say, what kind of work do they do? They'll say yes, assuming, and then I'll tell you, well, my father is a construction worker, my mom is a homemaker, so then you maybe ask them an easy question that they can answer, like, "Are you still going to school?" And do you expect to graduate at some point? Maybe that's pushing it. What are your plans after you graduate from school? Like, are they going to go to? They'll tell you if they plan to go to college. Yeah, I don't know if I'd ask the hobby thing, because, well, yeah, but you definitely need this information about socioeconomic status and aspirations. But you don't want to, they probably know you have a college degree. I mean, you're studying in Japan. So, you've studied Japanese language, you're doing research. So again, they're going to be sensitive. Are you judging me because am I inferior to you? You don't want to embarrass them. So you can see these questions have to be very carefully asked in a way that uses as few words from you as possible. That's the critical point. You want to use as few words as possible to ask your questions, because you want them to feel free to respond as openly and freely as they want to. Okay, so I wasn't thinking about this before. I thought we were just going to start with the questions, but I then realized, no, you do have to make sure that you get their socioeconomic status and background. Do you think it's important to ask them whether or not they have brothers and sisters? Okay, so you asked me.
do you have any brothers or sisters? Or aren't you alone? Alone?
Yeah. And so you might say, well, tell me I said, well, I have a brother who's older than me. Yeah. You know, and so you might say, well, what does he do? And I say, well, he went to college. Yeah. And he, you know, he graduated. He's in the Japanese Navy. So, well, yeah, and you might say, okay, then did you think about, ask, you know, you might say, did you think about also going to the military? And I can give you a response. And the reason that comes to my mind is because somehow everybody I know in the American military, I don't know about the Korean military, but in the American military, they all get tattoos. My nephew, he went into the Marines, and I don't know if that's the case in like Korean or Japanese military, but that might be something that maybe impacted him, whether or not he's copying his brother. Maybe he doesn't like his brother. Maybe he resents his brother. You don't say, do you resent your brother? No, you can't go ask that. You're just getting them to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. I don't know anything about the Japanese military. I don't know anything about even about the Korean military. Like, I don't know. You did your Korean military service. Did you see people with tattoos? Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the officers get tattoos, but the enlisted people, they. Yeah, yeah. Like, and so you presumably, you know, since you're Korean, you have done research on whether or not tattoos are happening in Korea. Like, I don't know if there's been any research. It's probably in Korean language, so I'm not going to look at it, although Google Chrome now translates just about everything into English. But there might be something, you probably have done research on this in Korea. You have to be interested in Korea because you're from Korea. So you're going to automatically do comparison with Korea just by the fact that you're Korean. You're not, even if you're not aware of it, you're going to do it. And that's an important point that people always make to me too in political science, that even though I'm not a comparative, what's called a comparative, as somebody who studies national political systems, I'm always comparing Korea with US, or Japan with US, or Russia with US, even if I don't realize it. So be aware of it. So you probably would find out of what's going on in terms of tattoo art in Korea, and also find out how much of it's got some kind of relationship, if at all, to what people are doing in Japan. I even know from watching Korean films on the airplane that there is this gangster motif. I remember I saw one Korean film that had Korean gangsters, and they had some kind of tie with Japanese gangsters, and you know, so there is that, and don't underestimate that. This learning from films, learning from popular culture, that's an important part of change. I mean, I remember seeing reports that K-pop is having an impact on North Korean youth culture in terms of including gang culture in North Korea. Like, how does a North Korean gangster act like? Well, watch those K-pop movies about Korean films about Korean gangsters. And it was true in Bulgaria. I'm not kidding you. When I was in Bulgaria from 1994 until 2009, the communist state was disintegrating, and it was a revolutionary transformation that was generating stress and confusion among many people. So organized crime became widespread for a number of reasons, including the fact that the communist laws that had been adopted were totally inappropriate and unuseful for the new economic and system that was emerging in Korea. So, and also embargo had been put on neighboring Yugoslavia when the Yugoslav wars were happening. So there's a tremendous increase in smuggling, illegal smuggling, breaking the UN sanctions to get goods into Yugoslavia. So you would see these mafiosi, these organized crime people in my little town in Bulgaria, and you would see them. They look straight out of Hollywood. They would sit there at the beautiful outdoor cafe. They were all dressed in black vest, black, and they all had black sunglasses on. Like, this is what a gangster looks like, because we saw it in The Godfather. And I can show you the reports. So don't underestimate the importance of popular commercial culture in these issues, particularly for these young people, right? who, are looking for, and from your theoretical background, meaning, spiritual meaning in a world that's increasingly globalized and commercialized. I mean, the people, BTS, the people that love BTS, they love BTS, right? What's going on there? Is that somehow related to this tattoo culture at all? I don't know. But so these kinds of questions about social economic status, you've done the research, and you want to, I think your research question somehow is related to, could be related to questions about intergenerational relationships and breakdown of the traditional Japanese model of lifetime employment. According to Trump and Hampton Turner, this family notion in Japan, that we hire you and we're going to take care of you for life as a salaryman, and you're going to do what I want. You're going to devote your life to me. I'm going to take care of you. That might be breaking down. Is that what this tattoo culture is reflecting? That the Japanese political economy is changing? That the lifetime employment is no longer becoming a guaranteed aspect of a professional career in Japan? That people know that they cannot rely upon old notions of job security, and that they're trying to assert their emotional independence. I mean, think about emotionally what's going on when you have this tattoo. What are you trying to do for you? What emotional gratification do you get from doing that? Even if I don't show it to you, I know I got it. So I don't show it to you, but I know it's there. So I feel, what kind of social creativity is involved in terms of social identity theory that we've talked about? Like, I'm different from you, and I feel good about myself, even though I'm just working at McDonald's, and you've got a college degree. I don't. So that autobiographical information is going to be really important. And then you can get to these questions. So then ask me, we're almost up. So ask me a question.
So why did you decide to get a tattoo?
Well, my friends were getting tattoos. And so, that's important. I said, because my friends are getting tattoos. I didn't say because, well, I saw it on television, or I saw a K-pop film. My friends are, and she might say something else, and he might say something else. And then we're running out of time here. We have to go to our debate. So that's another question.
So who else in your life knows that you have a tattoo except of your friends that you mentioned?
So I could say maybe my girlfriend, or maybe not. Or I could say my my drinking friends, or maybe not. Or my classmates, or maybe something else. The response is really important. If I say my girlfriend knows, or maybe I don't have a girlfriend, or maybe I probably am not going to say my parents know. No. Does my brother or sister know? My answer is really significant, but the significance depends upon the theoretical framework that you're using in your head in terms of sociology and social identity to explain this phenomenon. Okay, next question.
So how was their reaction right after you got a tattoo?
Well, my girlfriend, she's been my girlfriend for a while, and she knows I'm kind of troublesome at times, and she kind of didn't like it at first, but then I think she kind of respected me for doing it. And I really, that's why I really like her. She's a great girlfriend. That comes to mind. I think, I also think she has some friends of hers, her other friends, other girls that are her friends. They all got tattoos as well. And I think that that sort of made it easier for her to. So you see, I'm going on and on and on and on and on talking about this. And you can tell that somehow for me, gender relations are important here. I'm talking about male and female relationships. You're not going to say, oh, so I see that male and female gender relationships. No. That's in your head. Okay. And so, and then if you interview him and he says something similar, that's significant. If you interview her and she says something different, okay, that's another piece of the information puzzle that you're trying to gather. Okay. And until you get to the point of what's called saturation. Typically, though, this involves interviewing 6 to 12 different people intensively to look for complete data, saturate, get all of information feedback. So you can see how you have to be sort of like a psychoanalyst, like a psychologist, right? You got to think like a psychologist when you're doing these kind of interviews. Okay, so that's on here because this is our short class, so we have to go to our debate. Okay, so let's go to methodology, and we go to vote. Okay, share the screen. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, share the screen. And okay, so go here to the bottom to remind myself what the debate topic is. And the debate topic is, to South Koreans, social science makes politics better. And okay, so let's click there. And I'm wondering if, did I have any kind of other introductory things to bring up in that regard? Well, let's just go. I do have other material here, but we can come back to it later. So let's go back to the debate. And so I'm going to, I can't recall what you are, if you're a pro or con on the debate topic. So I'm going to have to let you choose which group to join. So I'm going to go then back to the breakout rooms and create two rooms and and then move you around, let you, I think, Sutong Uro Haldang. I mean, you can choose here. You can choose which group you belong to here. Yeah, I think that's what it means, right? Okay. So, and then we go to pro. And then group 2 is con, and then group 2 is con. Okay, so please join those well, send me an email, Gloria. Okay, because so let's now go to the, so please join these groups. So Gloria, Katika, Dewakwon, Moon Soon Young, and Yi Ju Young. Can you join? Yes. What happened? Okay, so what's your name? But you're not here. Why aren't you here? Okay, let me just do it like this then. All right, so Gloria, are you pro? Kritika, are you pro?
Yeah, I'm pro.
Yeah, I'm pro.
Okay. Pro, Kritika, pro. And Deokwon, are you pro or con? Okay, send you to con. And Moon Soon Young, pro or con? Okay, make you pro. And Yi Ju Young, pro or con?
Pro.
Okay, and make you pro. And so are you, Yi Ju Young is pro, so please join. And I don't know why, where are you? Did you? So is this Mutun, is this open? Do I press here now? Okay, but I don't see where. Where are you at? Why aren't you not here? Let's see, Jung. Okay, so I'll move you to con. How can I get him into con? Are you in pro? Okay, what about Young Jun Shin? You're pro? Okay, so I'll move you to pro. Okay. Okay, so Deok One, you are con by yourself. Gloria, are you pro or con?
I'm pro.
Okay, so go to pro.
Yep.
So Deok One, you are okay. So, who's going to speak first? Heads. It's the person on the bottom will speak first. Is tail. So it will be Gloria will speak first. Where'd you go, Deok One? Why aren't you? Where did you go? Okay, go back. Okay. Okay. So you have 60 seconds to prepare. Gloria will speak first, and Deok One will speak next for Khan. And Deok, We have to prepare. We have to prepare to respond. All these other.
Okay.
All these. We'll move this around. I can't. Fix the goddamn. Okay, you're going to have to respond to all the other students who are going to make pro statements. So be ready, Dewak, to defend yourself. Okay. So Gloria, go. Gloria,
I'm here.
make your statement.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Okay, so I'm pro because I think that social science and qualitative. Sorry?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So I think I'm pro because I think that social sciences and qualitative studies and researches are made to
Gloria?
address issues related. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Gloria,
Yeah.
I can't hear you, Gloria.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Yeah. I think that you're the only one
Can't hear
that
Gloria.
can
What
hear
happened to
me.
Gloria?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm pro because I think that social science and qualitative studies and researches are made to address issues related to the concept of individual in itself or within a group and the social or human issues related to it. Social sciences include a lot of theoretical frameworks that can help scientific and random persons to collate information and explain some interrelated attitudes. Qualitative researches, therefore what we call social sciences, can help politics to improve their focus on the exploration of a problem instead of using predetermined information from other research studies. Policymaking and politics are political framework, which is originally used to help the silenced voice to reach a political agenda and regulate the society related to regulation and directly collecting information and collaborating with the concerned ones. That is it done in the qualitative researches is a good way of elaborating politics, policies, and make them better for everyone.
Thank you, Gloria. As you mentioned, political, social science interest is related to politics, but I'm skeptical on this statement because academic success does not guarantee political success. In fact, many politicians who have doctoral degree on economics or sociology work as politicians in each country, but their policies often fail, especially in Korea. So I think real politics about society are different from the studies, academic studies. So because in case of economics, the academic economics emphasizes the rationality of the choices of economic subjects, but the public in real world often makes irrational choices. So I think in order for social sciences to help politics, field-based qualitative inquiries must be supported, like by forming a rapport with people in the field.
Iju Young. Iju Young, please respond to Daewak Won's statement.
I think it is true that social science makes politics better. First, social science started to understand various phenomena of human society. And of course, politics is one of the research fields of social science. Politics is a field that studies to create a stable society by giving order to human society. And social science helps politicians to make a reasonable political decision through investigates and studies various fields of human society. To do this, one of the methods used in research in social science is the qualitative research method. In the book of Creswell and Puth, qualitative research methods use inductive and deductive analogies influenced by nature science research. Therefore, I think it can be said that social science, which studied various phenomena of human society, through scientific and analytical research can help develop politics. So social science makes politics better.
Okay, heads, it's Kritika and Moon Soon Young, and it is heads. So it is heads, it's Kritika, and it is heads, Kritika. Read your pro statement, please.
Yeah, so social science covers various disciplines, one of which is political science. And it's a subject where people can study about the different political institutions, government systems, as well as political behavior and structures. And in order to study these topics, qualitative and quantitative research are necessary to study and examine the constantly changing political trends, which could help people be aware of what's happening in our society, as well as anticipating future political trends. And according to Creswell and Puth, these researchers need to be able to embrace the instability of doing this particular research, since there are no firm guidelines. And it could be hard to study something that cannot be controlled, but it's representative of the topic of politics, which is how, which is the reality of it. So I think social science makes politics better.
Okay, heads, it's Moon Soon Young, and it is heads, Moon Soon Young. Read your pro statement. Moon Soon Young.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Politics are
Go ahead. Oh. Use this.
politics. Can you hear me? Politics are not just include the side of the correct theory, like critical race theory. Social governments would need to understand society, start to assess what is most problematic in USA society. The last measure is not just by social science that considers about hierarchies, self-fulfillment, and mathematics. When Trump in 2016, like Trump said about COVID is the China virus, and the Christian who believe in their own belief work hard and get more money. It is God's order. Because are powerful than just logic. But South Korea, the country that have diverse religion, are not powerful. The belief they need social science more because the method of logic are need to more fixed by social science. Just in Korea, social science it works like contour more than the USA society, I think. Thank you.
Okay, and you have the last word.
First, the establishment of policy has get affected by qualitative studies collected in social science in any way, because the accumulated data and the patterns found by researchers function as the easiest basis for establishing policies and convincing people, the public, and policies established in this way will make policies better than does that do not, because I think policy studies is the best example about this. Policy science is a field of historical science represented by Harold Laswell, and those studies find the why policy failed. Policy science explains the process of policy writing in society and provide data necessary for preparing rational judgments on policy issues. It is to study national policies so that the direction of policy can be set in a direction that is beneficial to everyone through a more systematic and objective framework on perception. Today, it's not only studies policies that have already been implemented, but also plays a role in preparing policies that will not fail. So what can be seen from the definition of policy science is the finding the reason for failure is to know the reason so that it may not fail next time. In other words, constantly establish policies based on social science will improve the policies compared to previous one. Therefore, I think social science makes policies better.
Thank you. Bye.